Hey friends, what is up? Welcome back to the channel. And today we are going to do a little something fun here. So, a lot of what I hear when people first start off is that they feel like they get very bored with the meal plan and they say, "Oh, I'm doing swaps, I'm doing swaps." But then I'm always cautious, wondering like, okay, are we doing the right swaps? Is maybe the scale not moving because we're not swapping correctly? So today I'm going to do a quick video on how I would use the food swap Bible, how to look at a meal, understand what the components of it are, and then switch. So if you've ever felt bored with your meal plan or kind of stuck eating the same things over and over and over again because you're afraid to mess up your progress, this video is for you. So, like I said, today I'm going to show you how to use the Food Swap Bible to bring in more variety, flavor, flexibility into your meals, all while still hitting your macro targets. Now, yes, when you first start off with this, it may take a while. I usually think that it's easier just to write it kind of out and then make notations as you go and then be able to kind of switch things up. Eventually you'll be able to look at your meal plan and be able to kind of do this subconsciously. Now, the one thing that I would say is that when you are doing swaps, even if you're not tracking completely, try to track while you're swapping. And this is only because this will help us guarantee that we are hitting the same kind of macronutrient that we are looking to swap out. So, what may be helpful and useful for you is if you have the Food Swap Bible handy and ready for you. Otherwise, watch the video, kind of take some notes, and then bring your meal plan and the Food Swap Bible out. Okay? So, what exactly is the Food Swap Bible? Think of it as kind of your flexible friend in the kitchen. It's not here to tell you what you can or cannot have. In fact, it's here to tell you all the things that you can have. So inside, the foods are grouped together by macronutrients. Now, remember, macronutrients are your proteins, carbs, and fats. You'll see leaner versus fattier options for things like proteins. You'll see simple versus more complex options for things like carbohydrates. This is how you kind of get an idea on how to shake things up without needing a brand new meal plan. This is especially helpful if you're meal prepping for the week and tend to get bored by like day 3 or so. Swaps are going to give you the freedom without messing with your progress. So, what would I consider to be a swap? Here's what you could think about. One, you're out of a specific ingredient. Maybe that chicken that you bought in the beginning of the week kind of got real nasty smelling and or you're just like sick of chicken. Maybe you're bored of eating the same protein every day. Perhaps maybe like you went to Costco and you bought like, a giant thing of ground beef and you want to be able to use that. Or you're dining out with like family, friends, whoever, and you want to try and stay as close to your plant as possible. The golden rule is to keep your swap within the same macronutrient and similar portion sizes. So if your meal calls for 4 ounces of chicken, you can very easily swap in 4 ounces of like ground turkey, very lean steak, shrimp, tofu, whatever, depending on your goals. So I'm going to go through kind of a real life example for you and see how we can sort of change things up. So I'm going to share my screen here with you. I'm going to keep me down here on the corner and let's do this. So this is one of my actual clients' meal plans here. And what I did is I went through and I wrote out what each meal is. So you can see here, we've got day 1, here's my meal 1, meal 2, meal 3, et cetera, et cetera. So let's start with breakfast. Say you're just like, oof, I am done with all of this. Now, before I get started, the caveat to this is I understand that everybody has specific foods that they like, that they don't like. Obviously, work with what you have. I'm going and what you like to have in your meal plan. I'm just going to go by very generalized things. Remember, this is just purely for educational purposes. This is not me telling you to eat or not eat something if you don't like it, but hopefully this kind of opens the door up for you. So I'm going to look at day 1 here. So we've got some sausage. protein shake, and a small bagel. Now, what I can look at is what is my protein source in this? My protein sources are my sausage and my shake. Where is my fat? My fat in this is fairly minimal, but it's going to be in the sausage. There is not a standalone fat outside of also the butter, but there's not really like a standalone fat in this meal. And my carbs for this meal are mainly going to come from the bagel and the jelly. Okay, so now we at least looked at what each macronutrient is in here. So to swap this, maybe I'm going to say, all right, I don't really feel like sausage this today. I'm going to do some eggs instead. Eggs are about 7 grams of fat and 7 grams of protein per whole egg. Obviously, a little different if you just decide to use egg whites. But I'm going to say, all right, I'm going to do about 2 eggs here. Now, I also still have some protein because of this protein shake. I don't really feel like sucking down another protein shake, so I'm going to swap that for like some Greek yogurt. Maybe I got some Greek yogurt I'm obsessed with and I want to eat it every single day. Now, my fat in here, remember we did say that that comes from pretty much the sausage and the butter that is on the bagel. So we don't really have to think of adding a specific fat in here because we do have the fat in the eggs. However, if you wanted to add a little bit more, maybe I'm going to add in like half a tablespoon of peanut butter into my Greek yogurt. So now we have left is our carbs. And maybe instead of a bagel, we were like, oh, I've got a bunch of bananas. Bananas are carbohydrates. I'm going to eat a banana instead. And since I still need a little bit more, I'm going to add in an English muffin because I know that an English muffin has less carbs than a whole bagel does. So here I've looked at this. I'm going to take this and I'm going to put this in my Fitness Pal. I'm going to try and make sure that I am as close to these numbers right here as possible with those swaps, which I should be. Again, I've been doing this for a long time, so I can kind of go through and do this in my head very quickly. You will get to a point where you can do this very quickly as well. So let's move on to this lunch. We've got this Brussels sprout chicken and apple salad with some Greek yogurt. So my protein in this is the chicken and the yogurt. My fat in this is going to come from the salad dressing. You can see here that it's got about 53 grams of fat in this because this particular salad has a lot of fat in it. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to click on this so we can kind of see. It's got some walnuts in it. It's got some salad dressing, all sorts of stuff. This is actually a really, really tasty salad, especially if you need something to like make really big to bring to like an event or something. So we've got our protein, chicken and yogurt as our two things right here, here and here. We have our fat. We know that we've got some salad dressing and we've got some walnuts and well, olive oil and walnuts, salad dressing, whatever. And so our carbs for this is a pretty low carb meal. It's only 23 grams of carbs here, and the majority of it is coming from the apples and the Brussels sprouts, pretty much. Yes, there is a little bit of carbs you're going to get from the maple syrup, but it's pretty minimal. I wouldn't stress a ton about it. So let's go through and switch this up. So perhaps instead of um, the chicken for this, perhaps we had turkey burgers the night before and we want to have a turkey burger. So I'm going to swap in a turkey burger here. The turkey burger, I'm just going to check the label to make sure that it fits, you know, okay within this. It'll make more sense once we kind of add everything in. But we're going to go with turkey burger. And then I'm going to switch my Greek yogurt for a shake because I want to have a shake when, I'm driving to the gym or something like that. So a shake we're going to have is going to be about 20 to 25. grams of protein or so. Your turkey burger is going to be about 20 grams of protein as well. So we're right about at that kind of, that threshold that we're looking for here. Let's go down to our fat. So for our fat, we had walnuts because nuts are a fat, and we had olive oil, which is being used as the like the salad dressing for that. Now, I know that all nuts are pretty much created equal, and that includes for nut butters. So I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of peanut butter to my shake when I blend it all up. And then I'm going to add 1 slice of cheese to my turkey burger because cheese is mainly a fat source as well. Now we're still going to be below the fat on here, but we're going to fix that here in a second. So then I look at my carbs. This is a fairly, like I said, low carb meal. It's about 23 grams of carbs, another 8 here. So, we're looking at like 31 grams of carbs. What I look in my fridge for is like, oh, I've got some extra rice hanging around from before. So I'm going to add in some, some jasmine rice or brown rice or whatever. I'm going to use MyFitnessPal or any other tracking method to figure out how much rice I need to get to about 30 grams of carbohydrates. It's going to be roughly probably around like 150 grams of rice, give or take. But that's where using another, like a MyFitnessPal is really going to help. Now, the thing that I need to remember is like, dang, this was like 50 grams of fat in this beast. I still got a lot of fat that I need to do. What's a really super easy way to add fat into anything is just add some butter if you can. And butter is healthy for you. Don't think about butter from back in like the early 90s when everybody said it was terrible and you need to, do all these like low fat diets and stuff like that. Butter is okay, I promise. So I'm going to add like a tablespoon of butter. We'll put it up here with the fat butter to mix with my rice just to give it a little bit of flavor. Or if I wanted to, I could use something like a Primal Kitchen sauce or any other type of sauce that is a fattier base just to drizzle on top and add a little bit of extra flavor. So now here I'm going to input this into MyFitnessPal, make sure that I hit roughly around that same amount of carbs, fats, and protein, and now I've completely switched up this meal. Let's move on to meal number 3. So, broccoli, white rice, and shrimp. This is going to be super duper easy. So, what is our protein source here? Very easy. It's our shrimp. Oh, let me scroll back up to the top here so you can see where we are at. Day 1. So, broccoli, white rice, shrimp. Protein source is very easy. It is our shrimp. This fat has little to no fat in it whatsoever. For this client, it's done on purpose because this is kind of like a post-training meal and you don't want to have a lot of fat after post-training, but we don't really have any fat in this meal. That's totally fine. We can still make swaps. So, and our carb sources in here is our rice. Now, something that I haven't really mentioned is things like your veggies. Your veggies, you can pretty much just swap with anything and everything that you like. So I'll add it to this one because we've got it here, but you can swap, especially green veggies are very easy to swap with anything and everything. So let's go ahead together and swap this out. So for our protein source, this shrimp is a very lean protein, which means there's not a lot of fat in it, which you can see since we have this only 3 grams of fat right here. So I need to use that food swap Bible and make sure that I am sticking with the leaner sources of protein for this. I cannot swap something like shrimp for salmon or shrimp for a ribeye steak because the fat content is much higher, which is going to add a lot more calories. So I know I need to stay pretty lean here. So a super easy lean protein source could just be chicken breast. That's kind of boring though. maybe I've got some, I don't know, sliced ham in the freezer. Maybe it's Easter time and there's some leftover ham that doesn't have any of that visible fat on it, and I'm going to use some of that. Now, for my fat, we really don't have anything. That's fine. It's not a big deal. You can still flavor your food a ton without it. My carb source is I'm gonna perhaps the night before, since we used the leftover turkey burgers, maybe the turkey burgers were matched with some roasted potatoes. I'm going to use the leftover potato as my carb source in here. Again, I'm going to use MyFitnessPal or any other tracking app to see how many potatoes I need to get to about 40 grams of carbs. And here's a hint, it's a lot, which is why potatoes are awesome. Now, for my veggie here, again, we can switch to whatever we want. Maybe you really like broccoli and you want to keep broccoli. Maybe you've got some green beans in there and you want to use that. Here we go. Now we've changed our broccoli, rice, and shrimp meal to chicken, potatoes, and green beans. All of that's going to be roughly the same amount of carbs, fats, and proteins because I'm going to make sure to look in MyFitnessPal or any or on the package itself to guarantee that I get to the proper amount of macronutrients for that. And because I want to maybe make the flavor of this change, I can either keep the spices that are in this firecracker chip or shrimp, or I could just, maybe throw on some lemon pepper seasoning for on my chicken or my green beans or something like that. Very, very simple. Now you've completely changed this whole entire, well, we'll do the snacks here in a second. But now we've basically changed these three meals into something different, utilizing things from the night before without sacrificing a lot of flavor or going over any of our macronutrients. Snacks are pretty easy to swap out. For pineapple, pineapple is a carbohydrate because it is a fruit. Now, because it is what we call a higher calorie fruit, because it's kind of lives in like the citrus family a little bit more, we want to try and swap and stay with higher calorie fruits as well. If I tried to take pineapple and swap it with something like strawberries, you're going to have to eat like 6 cups of strawberries in order to get to like enough carbohydrates that match that because berries are very, very, very low calorie, very, very low calorie. So instead of the pineapple, maybe I've got some really nice, like a green apple at home that I'm going to have instead. I just check to see how much of the green apple I can have to kind of fit with my carbohydrates and swap that out super easily. Protein bar. Again, we can do a little bit of magic here if you want. If you want to go super simple, we could just be like, all right, I'm going to swap out this protein bar for, a protein shake and another and some frozen fruit. Or if you want to get a little experimental with things without going over, I know that this protein bar's got 20, or let me here, I'll just click on it. I know that this protein bar's got 20 grams of protein, 5 grams of fat, and 26 grams of carb. It's really super easy to swap that with a tortilla wrap, like what half a tablespoon of mayo or hummus or guac, whatever thing that you kind of like, and then add in some like turkey deli meat. There. I just swapped the protein bar for a very simple wrap. The turkey deli meat's going to be probably about 4 ounces or so. So if you're looking for something that you want to swap instead of a protein bar that has a little bit more sustenance to it, this is going to be almost the exact same macronutrients as this is. So obviously you want to check to make sure that that tortilla that you have is the correct amount of carbohydrates. You're not going to be able to use like a big giant burrito one. You're probably going to be able to use like a smaller taco one. But it's a super simple way to just kind of switch that up here for you. So now we've gone through and we have completely changed this meal plan for day one. Let's go and look at day two now. So let me scroll back up here. And what we're going to do for day two is a little bit different. Say that, actually, we're going to go day three because day two is kind of similar. So say that day three comes along and your BFF is like, hey, let's go out to dinner tonight. And you want to make sure that you are able to save as many carbs, fats, and proteins as you can for dinner because you are just like so looking forward to, I don't know, we'll say getting tacos or something. This is a way that you can use the food swap Bible also to swap things in and out to save yourself calories later on. So I know when I go get tacos, I usually want to eat some chips and salsa, and I'm probably going to have, two, chicken fajita tacos. So I need to save a lot of carbs to go, and I need to save some protein and some fat for that. So what I can do is I can look at this first meal here and be like, okay, so my protein sources are my bacon, my egg, and my yogurt. Okay, my fat sources are coming from the egg and the bacon and cheese because it's a whole egg. Bacon's got fat in it. Bacon and eggs are about a 1-to-1, so it's 7 grams of protein for about 7 grams of fat for that. My carbs in this is also the bagel in here. So if I want to lower this down a little bit to save some carbs for later on, carbs and fats for later on. I could very easily just keep my yogurt, do some egg whites instead because egg whites are just protein and they don't have there's no fat in it because we take the yolk out and just adjust the egg whites to make sure that I've gotten this higher amount of protein here. My fat, I'm sort of going to just take out for the day. So I'm not going to have any because I really want to save some fat for those chips and salsa later on. So we'll just put none here. And then my carbs, this is a pretty high carb meal because we're having it on a bagel. So you can see that we can save ourselves about 60 grams of carbs here by doing by just switching to something lighter. So perhaps maybe I'm going to do like a cup of strawberries and like a half a cup of blueberries. This is going to be about 15 grams of carbs or so with that. And now I have saved about 50 grams of carbs for later on. So I'm just going to write saved 50 grams of carbs. Now let's look at our meal two and try and do the same thing here. Our protein for this ham and cheese sandwich is going to, and Quest chips, is going to be the chips because they are protein chips. It's got about 20 grams of protein in it, and the ham on here. Our fat source is going to be the cheese and the mayo that is on here. Our carbs for this is our bread from our sandwich. So again, we are looking to try and save some fat and some carbs for dinner later on tonight. I don't really suggest trying to save protein at all because for the most part, everybody is still pretty low on protein. So I want you to, just eat your normal protein typically. So if I want to save some stuff for later, I'm going to look at this protein here and I'm just going to keep the ham and the chips. Okay, the chips don't have a lot of fat in it. There's not a lot of carbs. The protein amount in Quest chips, I believe, is about 24 to 25 grams of protein. We're just going to keep the ham slices as well. For my fat in here, I'm going to keep the cheese. But I'm just going to bring it down to just one slice. This particular sandwich has 2 slices of cheese on it, but I'm just going to bring it down to one slice. So I'm going to save about 7 to 8 grams of fat there. And then for my carbs, because I want to save some carbs for later on, instead of having the bread on it, I'm going to do like a lettuce wrap, or I'm just going to throw that all on like a mixed salad here. Super easy. I would just probably keep the dressing off and make it like a wrap, like a lettuce wrap, and then throw some like mustard or something on it to get a little bit of taste. But now I have saved about 30 grams of fat here and about 20 grams of carbs for later. Okay. Our snack, we've got some frozen fruit. I'm going to take and add a shake with that frozen fruit here because, oh my Lord, I cannot spell. I'm going to add a shake to here. So I'm going to add about 20 grams of protein to this because, again, I don't necessarily want to save protein while I'm getting ready to go out because protein's kind of the one thing that's lacking when we do go out to eat. It's very easy to get all the carbs and fats that you want, but protein usually is what suffers a little bit. So I'm going to add a protein shake to here just to make sure that I'm going to hit that protein goal. Also, before I go out, I like to have something like a protein shake because it helps me feel fuller for longer. So then I'm not going to be tempted to kind of snack as much leading up to it. So now when we go and we've gone out, this meal, we already know has 34 grams of protein, 52 grams of carbs, and 30 grams of fat. But however, because we had saved a bunch of stuff here for our breakfast and saved with some swaps for our lunch, I have a lot left over. So I did save protein, we didn't save anything. We actually added to it, but we still have about, 34 grams to play with. So we saved, or this meal has 52 grams of carbs. We also saved 20 earlier from our lunch. Now we're up to 72. And then we also saved 50 grams of carbs or so from earlier because of our swapping the bagel out instead. So we've got kind of like 170-ish, we'll say, grams of carbs to play with at dinner time. Now that may seem like a lot. We're like, oh dear Lord, like how like that that's a lot. Sorry, not 170, 120 grams of carbs that we save. You look at that and you're like, oh, that's a lot of carbohydrates. I don't think I could eat that. Have you ever sat down with a basket of chips and salsa in front of you? I promise you, you can eat 120 grams of carbohydrates right away. Those things, once you start, you cannot stop with them. Plus, you would rather be able to know that you've got that kind of like rainy day fund of carbohydrates saved up anyways. If you don't hit that exact carbohydrate goal, like whatever, like you were just a little below your calories for the day, that's totally fine. But at least we know that we saved up. We kind of have that caloric rainy day fund for this meal out. This meal already had 30 grams of fat in it to begin, but we also saved about 30 grams of fat earlier. So we have again about 60 grams of fat to play around with. So now, because we use the food swap Bible, knowing that we are going out to eat this day, this meal now becomes about 34 grams of protein we can play around with, 120 grams of carbs, and 60 grams of fat. That is an amazing amount to be able to go out to dinner with, especially someplace like a Mexican restaurant that we're using in the example here, or even if you were going out for pizza or something. Again, 120 grams of carbs when you go out to eat, like, can go by like that. That's like, you know, I don't know, like one plate of spaghetti from Olive Garden or, Cheesecake Factory or anything like that. So, two different ways that we have shown that you can use the food swap Bible here. This first example was how if you're just kind of bored with some of the things that you're eating or you want to use leftovers from the night before. And the second example we used because we knew that we were going out to eat for dinner that night and we want to use the food swap Bible to change things up to kind of be able to save those calories for later on. Now, the thing to remember as we are doing this is that we want to um, track as much as we possibly can. Track portions, not vibes. What I mean by that is you can't just kind of look at some of these things and be like, all right, that's roughly about, a half a cup of rice. Because just like, your husband that, goes catching the fish and the fish is really this big and then soon the eyeballs make it so that it's this big, the same thing can happen with us as we are trying to um, you know, eyeball food portions here. Really watch condiments and sauces. Make sure if you want to add a sauce in and use it in the Food Swap Bible that we are tracking that first. And really keep your protein high. Don't skip on that. That is your body composition key. Protein is the number one thing that we need in order for weight loss and fixing that metabolism. And also, don't swap the entire meal every day. Keep the base structure for the best results. Because remember, consistency, oh, it's always going to be perfection. So, swapping one or two ingredients each day is more than okay to add some variety without kind of messing things up. So, I hope that this showed you how easily you can use the Food Swap Bible to swap things around for you. If I ended up just kind of making things like super duper complicated for you and you need help understanding it, please reach out to me and we can go through an example of your meal plan specifically to do that. So, go ahead, rotate that shrimp, rotate that steak, swap some rice with a sweet potato, spice up your life a little bit without ever second guessing if it fits, because we have this resource in front of you to be able to make it fit. So, if you found this video helpful, which I hope you did, don't forget to like and subscribe to this so that I can upload more videos for all of you. And then reach out to me with any questions that you have. Drop a comment of your favorite food swaps that you like to do. And until next time, keep on doing you.